Here talking to us about this theme that she chose, Break Free. And it's going to be amazing, I'm sure. All right? Yay!
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to everybody that is watching us online. First of all, I would like to thank every one of you for being here tonight. I would also like to thank everybody that is watching us online. But I really, really, really want to thank Marisa for giving me this awesome opportunity, for poking me over and over again to be up here and do a lecture for the center. I also would love to thank my friend Lena and my husband that actually helped me with the PowerPoint, because I'm not techie at all. So thank you so much for all the help. Anyways, so Marisa has been asking me over and over again to do a lecture, and I didn't know what to talk about. So I said to her, I am going to talk about a subject that was very, very close to me, and something that Spiritism really, really taught me over the little 3 years that I've been here in this home. And it is about, it's not showing up. Keep going. It is about forgiveness, in forgiving somebody and also forgiving yourself. So I started off Googling what is forgiveness, and according to Wikipedia. This is so fancy. I didn't know it was going to be like this. Okay, so forgiveness is the intentional and voluntary process by which a victim undergoes a change in a feeling and attitude regarding an offense, lets go of negative emotions, such as vengefulness, with an increased ability to wish the offender well. So, in order for us to talk about this topic, we have to know what it means. And you also have to be wanting and willing to take the first step. So, when it says right there, intentional and voluntary, that's what it means. It means that you're voluntarily wanting to start the process of forgiveness, whether it is someone or yourself. Then we're going to go to forgiveness according to the gospel. That is going to be found on chapter 10. There's two ways of forgiveness. There's the noble, generous, without ulterior motives, delicately, gently, sparing the self-esteem and liability of one's opponent, even when he or she completely is to blame. Now, when you look at this, we all want to get there someday. Hopefully some of you are there. I'm definitely not there yet, but I am trying my best still. And then there's the second part, which is the offended person, or the one who thinks he or she offended, imposes humiliating conditions on the other person and makes him or her feel the weight of a forgiveness that angers instead of pacifies. So I'm speaking for myself. I kind of fit more in that category. I'm like kind of in between the two. Because a lot of the times when we say, oh, I'm going to forgive a person for something that they've done to you, the first thing you say is, I'm going to forgive you, but there's always a but, right? So, but our friendship is never going to be the same again, or I'm never going to trust you again, or you're going to have to prove to me that I can trust you, or that I can be your friend again. So we're kind of bargaining with that person. That to me is not really a freeing and truthful forgiveness. And obviously, according to the gospel, it isn't either. So moving forward, when I decided to start the process myself, I actually started after Rosandro came to our center, and he talked about this book. I bought that book when he was here, and I do not like reading. For most of you that know me, I read this book in a week because it was really, really, really touching to me, and it was something that I was going through myself, and So I read it and I really, really loved it. So I went back into it for this lecture tonight. So Rosandro is going to say that Jesus tells us that what others do towards you cannot be avoided. It's life. So whenever we are driving around and somebody cuts you off or somebody upset you, said something to you that really, really hurt your feelings, we can't avoid that. It's life. We're here, we're living, we're learning, we're evolving. That is going to happen on every single day of your life. But how we react to the offense is something that depends only on us. So it's truly how you take that. So if somebody cuts you off and you're pissed off, or if somebody says something to you that really hurts you, it's really how you react to that. You can take that in and keep it inside and be angry and be upset for days, hours, maybe years. It's really, really up to you whether you allow that to happen or you don't allow that to happen inside of yourself. So the objective of forgiveness is to relieve yourself, which is why I picked the theme of the lecture to be break free. Because when you achieve that level of forgiveness, when you truly forgive somebody the noble way, it is extremely freeing for yourself. And I'm sure it is for the other as well. So, moving forward. So what happens to us if we decide that we're not going to forgive? We have put on our minds that it's not something for you, you're hesitant, and a lot of the times it happens in our family. It's either our parents or a brother or a sister or a cousin. It's usually somebody that's close to us that we're very, very hesitant in forgiving. So there's some things that can happen to you if you do not forgive. First of all, your heart is going to look a lot like that. That's a first. It can cause heartaches, meaning your heart is going to be very sad, full of bandages, not feeling so great. It can cause you a lot of loneliness. A lot of the times, at least in my experience, I'm talking for me, when you don't forgive somebody that is so close to you, you miss them. You miss talking to them. You miss hugging them. You miss hearing their voice. It creates a very lonely feeling inside of your heart and inside of your soul. It creates sometimes a lot of anger because a lot of the times we want people to see things and see the world and see life in our eyes. And that angers us when they don't see things the way we see things. It can create a lot of negative thoughts, which are not good for us at all. Very, very bad. It can also create sleepless nights. I love my sleep, and I would like to keep it. But a lot of the times, if somebody does something towards you and you decide not to forgive them, what happens when you go to bed? You think about it over and over again. You keep bringing that feeling up. You keep saying, why did she do this to me? How could she? Why? And you never have that nice, long sleep that we're all supposed to have. It can also cause tons of stress, which can cause hair loss, if all of you don't know that. I am a hairdresser by day, so do not be stressed. You will go bald. So what is in it for you if you decide to forgive yourself or to forgive a person that has done something towards you? Wow, this is really fancy. Lena, I have to have some classes on how to do PowerPoints over here. It brings you an extremely happy heart. Okay. It reconciles relationships. So a lot of the times when you had a disagreement with a friend or a family member, you can go years without talking to that person, or you can go a day or two. So whenever you do decide to go through this very long process, I'm not saying it's something short, it will reconcile the relationship. You'll be able to talk to that person again. You'll be able to hug them again. You'll be able to love them again. So that's a very positive thing that it can bring you. It will lower your heart rate and your blood pressure. So for all of you, go get that checked. It might be a forgiveness issue. It will definitely reduce stress. Again, you know, that's something good that we all want. We want to be stress-free. It will better your anger management skills. I'm not angry, so. It has less anxiety. I suffer of a lot of anxiety, so I can relate to this. It's amazing not to feel very, very anxious all the time. Fewer depression symptoms. A lot of the times, again, when you decide not to forgive that person, with all of the anger, the sadness, it will create a little bit of depression in you. Improves psychological and physical health. That's very, very important. We all know that everything that we think throughout the day is gonna eventually become real in our lives. It's already a thought that you're putting out there, right? And we all know as spiritists that our brothers and sisters that are disincarnated can see everything we're thinking about all the time. So we have to be very conscious of always trying to keep our mind very positive, so that way we can also pass that on to everybody that's around us on a daily basis. This is so fancy. Okay, so there's also another book. It's called Renewing Attitudes by the Spirit of Hamed. I don't know. I think we have it in English here. I'm not sure. It's also an amazing book. I love to just open it and read it. And one of the nights when my husband and I were doing the gospel at home, the gospel was talking about forgiveness, and we went to Renewing Attitudes, and he says that forgiveness grants the peace of spirit. Again, Spiritism is showing us how amazing it is for us to forgive, how amazing it is for us to let go of all of those negative feelings inside of us. It brings us peace. I want to be very peaceful. I'm sure everybody wants to be very peaceful in their lives. So it's another book there that's telling us. And then returning, this was also on, this part was also on Josandro's book that's called Self-Forgiveness. He says, every time we remember what happened, it brings you back to that same heartache you felt when the event happened. So there's a chapter in this book where he talks about this part. He tells a little story. I didn't want to put it in here because it would be too long, so I'll just kind of minimize it and tell you. He says that whenever you don't forgive somebody, think of if somebody, and this is going to sound a little disgusting, if somebody throws up in your shirt inside of an elevator, right? And you're at work, you're in a building, you're going to your office. So you're kind of stuck with that shirt because your wife forgot to pack you a nice clean shirt. So the whole day you have to smell that, right? So what you decide to do, you take that shirt, you try to clean it out, you wring out the puke or the vomit, and you put it in a little jar, okay? So then when you leave work, you go to your mom's house, and you get to your mom, and you're like, Mom, guess what happened to me at work? This and this and this and that. And then you go to your friend's house, and you tell them the same thing. So he says that doing that, talking about it, the event, and keep putting yourself back to where that is, it's kind of like you're opening that little jar and you're smelling it. So it doesn't smell good, right? So can you only imagine what it's actually doing to your body physically and your insides? Can you imagine what it's doing to your thoughts? I'm sure it's awful. and nobody wants that. But that's what he talks about there. It's about letting go of the feeling. It's not forgetting what happened, but just letting go of that feeling. This is way too fancy for me. But so he then says, it is not for you to forget what happened. The purpose of the gospel of Jesus is to forget the bad feeling that it was generated in the event. So he's not telling us or preaching to us that we should forget about what the person, did or didn't do, but try to forget about the feeling that it caused inside of you, that pain, that anger, all of those negative thoughts that came into your mind. That's what Christianism is asking us to do, is to forgive and forget that part. That is the beginning of the process of true forgiveness. Eventually, you will get to the end. So he also says that the hardest individual to forgive is yourself. So right here is when I am going to tell you my personal story, because Marisa asked me to do this lecture and I wanted to talk about my story. So here it goes. My father passed away about 8.5 years ago. When I was 12 years old, we all came here from Brazil. I was 12 years old. My brother was 15. My dad decided he was going to leave his family and go back to Brazil. I'm sure a lot of you have very similar stories. Well, I was only a teenager. I was a girl. I was going through puberty. There was a lot of things in my head. I kind of wanted a male figure around. My brother was only 3 years older than myself. And I was very angry at my father. Very, very angry for what he did. I felt abandoned. I felt that he didn't care about us. I felt so many different feelings went inside of me and inside of my head. Well, I couldn't go back to Brazil because I didn't have the famous little card that we all love to say, which is the green card. I couldn't go back to visit him. At the time when he left, he was able to come back to visit us because he didn't stay over where he became illegal in the country. So I used to always call him and beg him and say, Dad, please come and visit us. Please come and visit us. And it was all empty promises. He would say he would, and then he wouldn't. He would say he would, and then he wouldn't. So I became a very rebel teenager, gave my mother tons of problems. She was a single parent raising 2 kids here. My brother had to grow up very, very fast and become the man of the house. But I still had so much anger towards my dad. Well, in 2008, I finally got my green card. So I went to visit my father in Brazil, where he told me about a month before I went that he had moved on in his personal life. He was with someone else. At that point, I was already an adult and I understood it. So I met this person, which today I am very, very grateful for her because she stayed with him for the last year of his life and made him very happy. At the time, I didn't really care for her, to be honest. But so I went back to Brazil and we had about a week and a half of fun. And it was great. That was in April. So I came back here, and in October, I got a phone call from my family saying that my father was sick. Nobody really told me what was really going on with him because knowing me, I would pack my bags and go. So they're like, he's sick, but he's in the hospital and he's fine. Fast forward 4 days later, my father passed away of a brain aneurysm. It was very, very fast. I got myself in a plane, went directly to the cemetery, buried him, and that was that. Following that, his brother, his older brother, is a person that took care of a lot of the finances, housing, and everything that happens when somebody passes. And there was a lot of things that were done that was not really to my liking. But so I decided to tell this uncle of mine that happened to be my favorite uncle that I loved. He was sort of like my dad after my dad passed. that because of what the things he had done, he was dead to me as well. And moving forward, about 3 years ago, I came here to this home, to this beautiful home that, you know, our awesome friend Maris is always here with a big hug to give us. And I started studying. I come from a family, I was raised in Spiritism. Both of my parents were Spiritists. But I came here and I started to study. And it really, really bothered me that I had a lot of heartache and a lot of anger towards my father and towards my uncle. It really started to bother me. So I started studying a lot, and I started doing therapy with Rosana de Rosa, which she helped me throughout my journey of forgiveness. And the reason why I like Rosandro so much is because he went through the same process. Because I started asking myself, okay, my uncle is alive. I can forgive him, right? We can sit down and have a conversation. But what about my dad? He's gone. How am I going to do that? How am I going to forgive him? So after about 2 years of once a week therapy with Rosana, coming to the center about, 3 times a week, I ended up forgiving my father, truly forgiving my father. I miss him and I wish he could be here, but I forgave him. And the way I did it is I sat down in a chair and I put a chair in front of me and I imagined him there and I spoke to him and I asked him for forgiveness. And I know that inside of my heart, that's what he was waiting for, and he accepted it. Moving forward, I decided to then forgive this uncle of mine. Because I did tell him that he was dead to me, his entire family decided not to speak to me either. So the only truly material memory that I had of my father, I was not close to, which was my aunts, my uncles, and my cousins. So December of this year was 18 years since I could be home for Christmas, and I decided to go home. I went home for 2 weeks, and I called my mom, and I said, Mom, I have a purpose. This trip has a purpose. I want to break free. I want to be free of this feeling, and I want to talk to every single person in Dad's side of the family because they are my family, and I want to reconcile with them, and I want to feel good, and I want to have positivity in my life, but I can't move forward if I don't do this. So she said, whatever, it's whatever you want to do. I bless you for it. So off we went. Now, Rosana told me, she prepared me for this trip and for the whole thing, and she said to me, you have to go with an open heart because they might not want to forgive you. They might not want you back into their lives, and you have to accept that. You have to be willing to understand that everybody is in their own time. We're not always ready to do things, and we can't impose our opinion and our wants on others. So off I went to Brazil. So I gathered the family, everybody came. Unfortunately, my dearest uncle did not go. His name is Anthony. He did not go. We talked through text message a little bit here and there, and he was just not wanting to meet me in person. So for the rest of the family, I had the conversation with them, and I did it the noble way, I would say, because I didn't sit there and say, this is what you did, this is what you didn't do, this is what you should have done. All I did was, I am here to start a new relationship with all of you. I miss all of you. All of you are part of my family, and I want to reconcile this relationship that I have with you guys, and I want to forget about the past. My Uncle Anthony, I just wrote him a huge WhatsApp message telling him, you know, everything. So his response to me was that he was never, you know, he never wanted to do this, that, and he started naming all these things. And that's when I said, you know, he's not ready. He's not ready to have me back into his life, and I had to accept that. So all I said to him is, I understand. I understand. Maybe next time we can see each other. So also throughout this process, when I came back from Brazil, obviously I was a little hurt that I didn't get to see him and talk to him. But I also started understanding that I had to forgive myself. And that is the hardest person to forgive. It is so difficult to really, truly look at yourself in the mirror every day. Look deep, deep inside of you and forgive yourself. I had to forgive myself for telling him that he was dead to me. I had to forgive myself for acting the way that I acted. I had to forgive myself for not telling my father how much I loved him when he was here. I had to forgive myself for so many things. And I did it. And it feels amazing. I feel so free that I did that. So, so free. But truly, what really made me do that was my father. Because I started asking myself, you know, as I got involved here in the center, I do some work in the mediumship meetings. And we talk so many times with, you know, brothers and sisters that are in the spiritual realm. And I see the suffering, and I see the anger, and I see so many things. And I started telling myself, how is my dad feeling? Knowing that I am not talking to his family. Knowing that I don't want anything to do with his family. His family are his brothers and his sisters. So I try to put myself in his shoes, right? How would I feel if I was not physically here anymore and somebody was not talking to my brother or to my husband or to my mother or to my friends because of stupid things? Because of material things. When we're gone, we don't take anything with us. It's all emotions. So that was my journey through forgiveness. I overcame a very, very, very hard thing. For me, it was extremely complex and difficult. It took me a very, very long time to get to where I am today. And to be able to be here sharing my story with you guys without shedding a tear. It's kind of trying to come here and there, but I'm like, you know, I'm holding up, you know, but it's just, and that's when, you know, Marisa kept asking me to talk. I wanted to talk about something that I went through, and I couldn't be more thankful and grateful for this doctrine that has taught me how to truly forgive. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that I do it every day. It's something that I still struggle with. I still do have some people out there that I want to truly forgive and truly let go of some things that had happened. And like I said, it's a long process, but it starts right there. I did it the other way around, which was a little bit more complicated, but I started right here. You should start right here. That's where you should start. You know, it's acknowledging yourself and looking at yourself and saying, you know what? It's okay. The way I acted was the way I knew how to act back then. Now with my knowledge that I have, I probably wouldn't have acted the way that I did back then. But I did what I could. So that is my little story, maybe a little big, I guess. So moving forward, also in the gospel, according to Spiritism on chapter 10, item 14. Jesus says, they say, how many times should I forgive my brother or sister? It's asked, right? Not 7 times, but 70 times 7. And I really, truly love this message here, and that's why I wanted to leave it towards the end. This is one of Jesus' teaching that should strike your mind the hardest and speak to your heart the loudest. I put those 2 words big there because it is true. It needs to strike your mind the hardest. It needs to be something that you're always thinking about. I know that some of you out there have somebody that you need to forgive, whether it's somebody in your family, whether it's a coworker, whoever it is, whether that person is here or in the spiritual realm. They don't have to physically be here. You have that one person. So, Jesus also says, I didn't put it here, in Luke 23, verse 34, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. This is when he was being crucified. So whenever you start the process after you're done forgiving yourself and you're going to forgive that person, don't point fingers. Don't blame them. Don't pay attention to what they did to you, to the pain that they caused you. Because maybe they don't know what they're doing. Maybe they don't even know that they were hurting you. My story, my uncle, when he told me the things that, he did or did not do, it had nothing to do with that. I wasn't even mad at him about the things that he told me that I was mad at him about. So don't ever blame a person because, again, we're all in such different places in our lives. And you cannot expect that person to be where you are, right? This is, did it show up there? Yes. This is Mahatma Gandhi. He says, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. Because it is true. It takes so much strength and so much courage for you to take the first step. For you to even think about it. For you to even want to do it. It takes a lot of courage. And I think it's here, right? So, I went to YouTube, right? And I Googled videos about forgiveness. I picked this specific one. It's only like 4 minutes. But if you guys Google it, there's 1,000 of them. So,
we end tonight with one of the most potent powers on earth. It can change lives in an instant. Everyone has it. It's the power to forgive. Watch it now in action in Steve Hartman's Assignment America.
Thank you, Lord.
In a small apartment building in North Minneapolis, a 59-year-old teacher's aide sings praise to God for no seemingly apparent reason. Indeed, if anyone was to have issues with the Lord, it would be Mary Johnson.
For all you've done for me. He never had a chance.
In February 1993, Mary's son, Lorraine Bird, was shot to death during an argument at a party. He was 20, and Mary's only child.
My son was gone.
The killer was a 16-year-old kid named O'Shea Israel.
I wanted justice. He was an animal. He deserved to be caged.
And he was. Tried as an adult and sentenced to 25 and a half years. O'Shea served 17 before being recently released. He now lives back in the old neighborhood, close to Mary. This close.
He lives next door.
Next door.
How a convicted murderer ended up living a door jam away from his victim's mother is a story not of horrible misfortune, as you might expect, but of remarkable mercy.
A few years ago, Mary asked if she could meet O'Shea here at Minnesota's Stillwater State Prison. As a devout Christian, she felt compelled to see if there was some way, if somehow she could forgive her son's killer.
What'd she say to you? I believe the first thing she said was, look, you don't know me, I don't know you, let's just start with right now. and I was befuddled myself.
O'Shea says they met regularly after that. When he got out, she introduced him to her landlord, who, with Mary's blessing, invited O'Shea to move into the building. Today, they don't just live close, they are close. Clearly, Mary was able to forgive.
Unforgiveness is like cancer. It will eat you from the inside out. It's not about that other person. Me forgiving him does not diminish what he's done. Yes, he murdered my son, but the forgiveness is for me. It's for me.
For O'Shea, it hasn't been that easy.
I haven't totally forgiven myself yet. I'm learning how to forgive myself. And I'm still growing towards, trying to forgive myself and what it is I've done.
To that end, O'Shea is now busy proving himself to himself. He works at a recycling plant by day and goes to college by night. He says he's determined to pay back Mary's clemency by contributing to society. In fact, he's already working on it, singing the praises of God and forgiveness at prisons, churches, to large audiences everywhere.
Forgiveness is a powerful thing.
Which explains why Mary can sing her praise of thanks to her audience of one. Steve Hartman, CBS News, Minneapolis.
All you've done for me.
So this is one of many videos that I found on YouTube, very similar to this woman's story. And when I see that, what she said at the end is the best part of the video. I could just go home with that. You don't forgive because of the other. You forgive because of you, because you want to free yourself, because you want to feel good again, because you don't want to have those feelings, those negative feelings. And that is the kind of forgiveness that Christianity invites us to do. And I wish all of you a wonderful and liberating week.